So my name is Dr. Akanimo Odon, and I will be the moderator of this International Bioenergy Webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I can imagine many other people are still joining, but I think we should just make a move, and I'm sure other people can join as we progress. So it's an interesting webinar today, and I'm hoping that at the end of the session today, we would have learned different things, but also would have engaged creatively with ourselves and shared important knowledge and information with respect to the topic of discussion. Obviously, the theme for the webinar is, what does bioenergy mean for Africa? And somebody's asking me, they can't see me. I'm sure you can see me now, yeah. So the theme for today's session really is, what does bioenergy mean for Africa? And I'm sure that many folks have joined trying to understand what the current situation is. So I'll give a very short intro, and then we'll run through the program for the day. But I think before I proceed, I want to give some kind of house rules, if I may. So first and foremost, please note that as we progress in discussion, even as presenters give their talks, there will be opportunity for engagement later on. But at any point in time, if something catches your attention or you want to ask a question, you don't have to wait for the speaker to complete what they're saying. The chat section of the Zoom call is a really good location for us to actually put in comments, feedbacks. If you really are enjoying what the speaker is saying, just say so in the chat session. And if you're not enjoying it as well, still feel free to say so as well. That's fine. And also feel free to ask any questions as it progresses, and I'll try and pick up these questions and we can address them as the session continues. Also, always make sure that your microphone is on mute, so to kind of avoid any background noises, because we are recording this and would share it after the session. Also, if you're wanting to kind of make some comments, you can use the raise hand icon on the Zoom call. And then obviously, as you progress, when it comes to stakeholder interactions, you would have an opportunity to actually contribute. And so with that in play, I want to kind of progress right away to session itself. So I think I want to give a background information with respect to the subject matter before I call on the first speaker, who will give us an interesting presentation. I think you'll find finding interactive. So the population of sub-Saharan Africa is approximately about 1 billion people, with an annual increase of about 2 to 4% every year. And it's an estimate that the population will hit about over 1.5 billion by 2050. And the trouble is, more than 40% of Africa's population still live in extreme poverty. And so for the past 25 years, sub-Saharan Africa has experienced increasing massive rural to urban migration, and these changes have kind of increased the impact on demographics, respect to education, housing, land ownership, use, unemployment issues, and I think importantly, the availability and accessibility of energy. And so energy generation and accessibility is quite crucial to Africa's development, because it affects directly the lives and livelihoods of individuals, whether you're living in the urban or rural settings. I think in urban settings, more of the energy has come from oil and gas sectors in different African countries, while for rural settings, more of the energy use has come from reliance on biomass burning through maybe the use of fuel wood. And obviously, it's got massive impacts on deforestation issues. But whatever the setting is, whether rural or urban, we obviously know clearly that the issues that we face has got clear links to environmental damage, it's got links to illness and ill health, human health. And it's got unsustainable energy sources dependent on those. There's impact on cost. And ultimately, it's not sustainable. We've got strong energy crisis. And so 43% of Africans, over 600 million, don't have access to electricity at the moment. And this even increases to over 80% in rural areas, which is quite high. And even those who have access to electricity in different African countries always are kind of find it unreliable and also expensive. And so sub-Saharan Africa shares is a huge global access deficit, has doubled between 1990 and 2016, and that is increasing every year. So, but the interesting thing is the fact that we generate a lot of waste, over 60 million tons of waste yearly. That kind of averages between 0.5 and 0.8 kilograms per person per day, even though that's kind of low. But the point is, because a substantial part of this waste are organic compositions, waste, over 60%, it presents a huge potential benefit for resource on the back of bioenergy generation. And so the question is, what is the state, the potential, the challenges, the opportunities for bioenergy in Africa, and how might we explore this substantially? That's actually an overview of the theme for today's session. And so we're going to have a series of speakers who will run through different presentations, and then in between presentations, I would open it up for questions and answers, and then we're going to have a series of interaction exercises to wrap up the day. And I'm hopefully we can progress appropriately. Now, I want to introduce the very first speaker. He's got over 20 years of research experience in the fields of organic contaminant biota interactions in soil. He works on availability of pesticides in soil, risk management, assessment, bioremediation of contaminated land. He's got lots of funding opportunities with respect to his career progression, and he's got funding from TSB, NERC, BBSRC, EPSRC, and all the RCs. He's a well-published researcher with over 160 articles in peer-reviewed journals, and he has supervised about 35 PhD students, most of which are Africans. It might surprise you to realize that actually I was his first ever African PhD student. Currently, he's the director and the principal investigator of the UK-funded Global Challenges Research Fund project, RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE, which actually the funding projects for this international webinar we're having today. It gives me absolute pleasure to invite Professor Keksempo to give an introduction to the webinar.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Can people hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. And thanks for that very nice introduction, Akan, and not only to the theme and the project, but also in terms of my sort of research interests as well. I have to just update that somewhat and say it's actually 30 years experience, not 20. I wish it was 20, but it's not, it's 30. And so I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar. Of course, this is a webinar on bioenergy, focusing on in relation to our funded projects with African colleagues, many of whom are on this webinar. And to remind everybody that, in fact, in terms of the activities going forward towards Christmas, this is actually the bioenergy month. So entirely appropriate that we're talking about this now. So yeah, welcome to participate with RECIRCULATE, subheading the art of collaboration. And as Akan has already introduced, my name is Professor Keksempo. I'm director of both the RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE projects, and of course, I'm also heavily involved in the university's international engagement strategy as well, which has actually allowed me to visit a significant number of countries in sub-Saharan Africa, which I've very much enjoyed. And I have to say that given the situation, I'm feeling incredibly frustrated that the COVID pandemic has interrupted my my travel arrangements and visiting you guys. So before I talk about RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE specifically, I just wanted to highlight the importance of collaboration in these types of projects, and really that was developed by the Centre for Global Eco-Innovation, who have very much worked strongly since 2012 on developing relationships and collaboration, not only within the research sector, but also with private sector and indeed government and importantly policy. And that was developed within the UK, but we've actually taken that model and with collaborators, we've actually tried to develop that elsewhere And for example, we now have an international hub for the Centre for Global Eco-Innovation on the University of Benin campus in Nigeria, which is led by the eminent Professor Lawrence Ezemonye. So this collaboration, this collaborative nature is absolutely crucial. And for me, the collaboration has very much got to be equitable. Our tenet, our underlying premise is that it involves co-design, co-development and co-delivery. Oh, excuse me. So having developed these collaborations, we're always looking for funding. And fortuitously, around early 2017, the government in the UK released this Global Challenges Research Fund, which some of you might be aware of. And that was a huge amount of money over a four-year period of to the tune of £1.5 billion in funding. And what that was there to support was three basic things: to support addressing global challenges through disciplinary and crucially interdisciplinary research, to strengthen capability for research and innovation, not only in the UK, but also in collaboration with other partner countries, particularly those countries that are on the DAC list, and of course, where appropriate, to respond quickly to global emergencies. And another one of the underlying principles of the Global Challenges Research Fund was that the research for any projects that were funded had to also consider or embrace the Sustainable Development Goals as well. So, excuse me. So for RECIRCULATE, for example, we came up with the idea that our project would consider SDG 6, so clean water and sanitation, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, and then finally SDG 13, which is climate action. But as the projects developed, what we find actually is that our project and also our projects and many other projects actually consider very much more SDGs than just the ones that they start off with. And in some ways, that's actually a really positive thing. What's underpinning this is this notion of the safe circular economy. And the circular economy is something that's evolved over the last 10 years, let's say, and it embraces this notion that we should be, instead of throwing things away, we should be looking to reduce waste, we should be looking to reuse, recycle, repair, refurbish. And in the UK, we call that the circular economy. In other parts of the world, it might be called the green economy. There are very many different sort of phrases that describe this paradigm. But for the purposes of our engagement with our African partners, we're sort of thinking about how we can embed a safe circular economy with water at its centre to support the development of new partnerships with our African colleagues and to grow transformational impact through working with, in and for communities. And also, as a sort of outcome from that engagement is to develop new products, processes and interventions to deliver the benefits for both society with our African partner countries, but also in the UK as well, and to minimise impact on the environment. So to RECIRCULATE, RECIRCULATE is an acronym which is very easy to say. The title is Driving Eco-Innovation in Africa, Capacity Building for a Safe, Circular Water Economy. It's a massive project and has numerous partners. So of course, Lancaster are part of that, but we have strong partnerships with our campus in Ghana. In Accra, we have the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research also in Ghana. We have the University of Benin in Nigeria. We have the African Technology Partnership Studies Network, so-called ATPS in Kenya. We have the National Commission for Science and Technology in Malawi, Copperbelt University, and last but not least, of course, is the Botswana International University for Science and Technology in Botswana. And of course, as you can appreciate, many of the people on this call, many of the people who have engaged with RECIRCULATE over the last couple of years may not be party to any of those institutions or organisations. And again, that sort of highlights just how much more through our collaborative engagement, we have brought other organisations and individuals into the project to become part of this, what we are now calling the RECIRCULATE family. And for me, that's fantastically exciting. So we believe that RECIRCULATE is a shared vision. I've already given you the sort of overall objective there in terms of partnership and impact for communities, but also it does involve genuine international collaboration, working with research users, SMEs, policy and government. It's working across many different disciplines. Gone are the days when you can submit a grant that only contains one discipline, because the problems that we're addressing these days in our research are so complex that they require multidisciplinary input and thinking, and of course, clearly working internationally. I think that comes strongly through. And of course, the partnership and collaborative elements to this are absolutely crucial. So, in terms of how RECIRCULATE is constructed, it's built around three strong research elements: water for sanitation, water for energy, and water for food. And there is an interconnectivity between those three, which forms this sort of virtual circular economy. So we start off with waste, we collect that waste, that has impacts on human health and environmental health. We can use that waste to produce energy for communities, and then the waste from that is actually extremely valuable. It can be used in place of traditional fertilizers to improve or enhance crop production. Of course, within agricultural settings, there is natural wastage there as well, and that waste can funnel back into the waste for energy component, so that we have this virtuous cycle that's going on, not only in the UK, of course, where we're carrying out research, but also with collaborative research with our African partners in each of these research enclaves, if you like. Another very, very important element of this beyond the research is actually, well, what do we do with it? One of the things that keeps me awake at night is what happens after the funding runs out, okay? Because the funders are hoping and expecting that activities and outcomes from our projects will actually continue in the real world. And that's where we have strong impact, or input rather, from social scientists, management scientists, people from the private sector who can work together to develop a working economy that can be embedded within communities, where it can be continued beyond and used for real, actually, beyond the funding of the project. And another key aspect to this is how we communicate this. How do we spread the word? And this idea of engagement and knowledge exchange is absolutely crucial. So how do we take the science and technology that's been developed through the project? How do we take the business and entrepreneurial opportunities that are being developed within the project and share it more widely so that it can be considered and critiqued and hopefully ultimately taken up by various organizations and communities and individuals and so on? And that's where this engagement and knowledge exchange, and of course being fit for purpose for the African partner context, is absolutely important as well. So RECIRCULATE is just over 2 years old. It's doing many good and interesting things, but what is one of the things that's come out of this is the so-called ACTUATE project. Now, some of you might have heard of this. It's a relatively, in comparison to RECIRCULATE, it's a relatively small project. But what it has allowed us to do is to leapfrog ahead, taking our science and technology and our knowledge exchange elements with us to develop what we're calling demonstrator projects. So we're looking to set up 2 anaerobic demonstrators, one in Accra at a school, Umar bin Khattab Islamic School, and one on the University of Benin campus in Nigeria, to show not only school kids and university students, but also other stakeholders, policymakers, people who might be interested in investing in this for the future, that it actually does work. Okay, and that it does have relevance to the sub-Saharan African context. And of course, education and capacity building are incredibly important in this. And I am very, very keen that we engage with the school children and undergraduate students to help with that capacity building element. Because for me, these people are the change makers. It's not me. I'm too old. I'm thinking about retirement now. It's the youth, the young people who I'm hoping will embrace this idea of the circular economy through bioenergy to really embrace it and support. And of course, this bioenergy entity offers up solutions for waste management, energy security and food security. There are also strong educational elements, which I've already mentioned. And of course, in the fullness of time, there's the development of new entrepreneurial opportunities and economic development in the different countries that we're working with. So just finally, this is my circular economy in a sort of rather simplistic and cartoon style, where we have our waste. It goes into the digester. The digester works its magic and produces the biogas, which is, of course, is valuable. Okay, the waste product from that, although perceived as a waste, actually has value as well. We can use that to in soil and food soil conservation, soil amendment, and food production to produce things that are valuable. Of course, and then the waste from that feeds back into the circular economy loop. And at each stage of this, there is a potential for entrepreneurial development and exploitation as well. I'm just about finished now, but I just wanted to finish off by saying that the art of collaboration is our underlying philosophy, and that what we really hope to achieve through this project, through ACTUATE, and through other similar projects, is that we look to capacity build, not only with our partners in Africa, but also in the UK, where that feeds not only into economic growth, but also the continuation of a healthy environment as well. Of course, this is not the only thing that's going on with Participate with RECIRCULATE, and ACAN has asked me to highlight some upcoming activities. So there's an opportunity on the 2nd of September to meet Dr. Paul McKenna, who is our project manager for RECIRCULATE, and I'm sure he's going to have some interesting things to say about how you manage such a monster. Then on the 4th of September, there's going to be a live Instagram chat with key people from in the entrepreneurial sort of environment, from people who have engaged with the RECIRCULATE project and are engaging with RECIRCULATE project, so that's very exciting as well. Then we have our International Enterprise webinar on the 23rd of September, which will be a very, very interesting discussion and with presentations there as well. And then finally, going into October, we have our International Sustainable Agriculture webinar as well, which will continue on the story of RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE. That's all I really wanted to say. I'd just like to finish by thanking you all for engaging with this. It's great to have you all involved, and I'd like to thank also Akan and the team for actually developing this and developing it so rapidly as well. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you very much. So clapping. Thanks, Keck. It's fantastic. So absolute pleasure. I know I have to say it's one of those projects that is not very common. You don't see them very, very commonly because even though at the heart of RECIRCULATE as a project, there is a very strong capacity building dimension to it. And so for the last 2 years, we've had a series of workshop training programs in different African countries, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, Botswana, in Zambia. And we've also had very, very powerful, interesting Lancaster-based residencies where individuals and young professionals, researchers from African countries have come to Lancaster and spent several weeks developing new interesting projects, learning about knowledge transfer dimensions and models, but also about entrepreneurship and innovation, which I believe Africa as a continent desperately needs. And I think for me, the translation from RECIRCULATE as a project to ACTUATE is one of those projects, one of these where it becomes very clear that even though there is a research project with capacity building, ultimately people want to see if something actually works. You hear about bioenergy, does it work? And so when we apply for a new grant, and we actually won this grant under the project ACTUATE, so currently as we speak, there is the design and construction of actual bioenergy plants in Ghana and Nigeria, the University of Benin, to show that actually these models do work. And so on that note, it just makes sense to actually invite our next speaker to give us an interesting overview around the dimension of bioenergy from an African perspective, but narrowing it down to Nigeria. And then following him, it's almost, they'll do like a double act. Following him is a young chief executive who runs a bioenergy company. So first and foremost, I want to introduce a professor of ecotoxicology and environmental forensics with over 30 years of research experience. He is the foremost ecotoxicologist in Nigeria, and his research kind of spans across environmental technology, forensics. He has published over 100 papers in international journals on heavy metals, industrial chemicals, pesticide studies, and so on. He's been a consultant to the World Bank, UNESCO, WWF, UNDP, UNAIDO. I mean, he's a true international researcher. He's currently the Vice Chancellor of the premier private university in Nigeria, which is Ezemonye University, but also the chair of the Center for Global Eco-Innovation in Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, he's the Nigerian lead for the RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE projects. Absolute pleasure to invite to give his talk, Professor Lawrence Ezemonye. Over to you, Prof.
And he is also a consultant to the African Union.
Also, so you are hearing from an African Union executive. He's also a consultant to the African Union. The guy is loaded. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Akan. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
I would like to take some time out to sort out some technicals, but I would like to share my slide from my own end. I don't know if I will be given the sharing right to do that.
Yes, you'll be given the right, Prof.
Thank you. I'll be back in a few moments. Well, just 1 minute, I will join you. Thank you very much. I'd like to join hope I'm there. Yes, I would like to thank Dr. Akan, the co-host, but more importantly, Professor Kirk, the director of the RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE project. For ACAN, I thank you for the organization and your versatility in matters of this nature that concerns knowledge exchange. Professor Kirk, thank you very much for setting the stage for me with that very comprehensive, cerebral, insightful presentation you made. You just made my job so easy. So I will now take off from now. My presentation will be based on 4 pillars, and I will try to answer one pertinent question. What does bioenergy mean for Africa? And I would like to look at it from energy essentialities, from the microeconomic significance. What is the value of energy? Why energy? I also consider the complementarity of the energy sources and their optimal value. I will consider the binding constraints. I've called them binding constraints because they've refused to leave the apron strings of African development. Be that as it may, I will also look at the 4th pillar, which will be considering imagining the future. And how do we imagine the future? I'll be imagining the future looking at my introduction, the global perspective, the African transition, the African revolution, the energy trilemma, and the African scenario. But more importantly, I will dovetail completely into RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE as the legacy vehicles of my presentation today. I've also consulted and referenced International Energy Agency, IRENA, the Global Bioenergy Statistics, Renewable Energy Capacity Statistics, and other referral material for today's presentation. In terms of energy essentialities, I must say, and you all agree with me, that energy remains an important component for any development process. It's either it can be regional, it can be continental, even at the global perspective, you cannot, as a matter of fact, determine growth and development without energy. The global scenario for reduction of poverty as entrenched in the first development goals, sustainable development goal 1, which is not even talking about reduction, at the moment it's talking about eradication of poverty. This again will greatly depend on the energy production, consumption, its utilization, and also efficiency. In spite of all this, it's unfortunate to know that over 600 million sub-Saharan Africa still have limited access to electricity. Of course, this alludes to the presentation of Africa in the background. Nigeria is not different from this. The population is increasing, the demand is increasing, the supply is not increasing commensurately. Consequently, as a word of introduction, as you bet this, there's a need for an energy mix. Energy mix that will, of course, drive energy democracy. The development of renewable energy has also been identified as a major source. We shall look at it, and that is where, again, RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE comes into full play and into full view. This is a typical scenario of what is currently the space. Over 250 million West Africans are still without access to it. It's even growing. In Nigeria's situation, the population is increasing. Over 95 million people without access to it. You know what I mean? And today, over 70% of our Nigerians are in the rural environment. That is the case. Where only 10% of rural dwellers have access to cities. I would like you to judge the level of it using that scale. So renewable energy is in focus. And I have to do this because of the principle or cardinal points of RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE. In this particular context, in the context of Nigeria, and in the context of RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE, I would like to be considering the biogas scenario. from this slide, which has to do with food waste residue as feedstock, fecal waste, hyacinth, produce energy for domestic, industrial use, and even municipal use. And this takes me to recirculate intervention. So recirculate has been defined and properly contextualized in this presentation, in the presentation of Professor K. It's really driving eco-innovation in Africa. And that is why we have established the Center of Eco-Innovation Nigeria at the University of Benin to join the capacity building for safe circular water economy. It is important to highlight at this point the nexus between water and energy, and this is captured in Work Package 4, which is currently the University of Benin Research Group. And what essentially we are doing there is to invoke the fundamental use of feedstock. In our own case, we are working with food waste and the abattoir waste through anaerobic cold digestion, produce biogas for both domestic community use, academic use in institution, and also ensuring that the biodigestate is good and fit for as fertilizers. And so our research endeavor has been around the optimization of feedstock activities in the biodigester for the production of biogas. That has been done very well. I'm sure at a later webinar the results will be coming out. The second stage is to look at the suitability of the digestates for fertilizers. In this case, the microorganisms are identified, characterized, and the reduction of the pathogenic ones are also being carried out in this research team. And the third group is currently the deployment stage, which is deploying the biodigestates, various crops, modulating them with existing fertilizer. And at the end of the day, a typical circular economy is derived from this concept. That's what we're doing in Benin, in a nutshell. The global scenario at the moment is not too fascinating. 80% consumption of energy currently in the global space is from fossil fuel. And renewable energies that we're advocating at the moment is just 17.7%. Bioenergy still occupies a very prominent role at the global space. About 70% of renewable energies are just bioenergy. Bioenergy is also one of the largest employers of individuals, of persons, at the global level, considering the supply chain. But this has also not been taken to proper cognizance. Renewable energies, as we stand today and as we understand, provide societal opportunities, community-based opportunities, and renewable technologies create spillover effects, environment, the economy. We'll discuss that later. The renewable energy technologies deployment barriers need to be focused and to be talked about now. Policies and legal barriers. Incidentally, I want to say that with the entrance of RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE, we in Nigeria have the opportunity now to introduce renewable policies that will affect the transition of the energy flow in our country through the embedment of renewable energy into the national plans. Currently, we are developing the Agenda 2050 for Nigeria. I am a team lead for the environment, social and regional development, humanitarian and disaster management. In the environment area, we need to capture the essence of RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE and find a way of restricting them into our national policy. As a matter of fact, the 2020 of Nigeria, which is exiting in December, we are planning the successor plan, and there will be space for renewable energy and bioenergy in their plan. The technical barrier is also very glaring, and that is exactly what RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE is doing: capacity building across the board, government, members, academia, and the industry. You see, one thing is interesting, and I must say it now. The shared vision of RECIRCULATE has provided us opportunity for an elaborate partnership in the Nigerian context. Today, we can boast of about 32 partners under the RECIRCULATE ACTUATE, working and striving to embed renewable energy, particularly bioenergy, into the curriculum and into the national plan of Nigeria. The financial barriers are issues of investment, and that is why the deployment of the project in ACTUATE will not only be an educative program, but also provide opportunity for investment. And we are very, very keen on completing that project so that it can be deployed both in the industry, in the academia, and government. Renewable energy technology development pathways will only grow from the government policy reforms, which I talked about, capacity building, which is providing, and innovative financial mechanisms. Currently, it is facing a serious problem. Deployment of energy because of the state electricity monopoly that exists, and something I describe as regulatory confusion. And for some time now, expensive, renewable energy, expensive nature, which is gradually changing. The African perspective is very promising because Africa has substantial new and renewable energy resources, and it is expected that renewable energy, which is very attractive, will provide opportunity for the new African electricity demand. Let me just mention that oil and gas is still the major source of energy in North Africa, while coal is the major source in South Africa. The rest of sub-Saharan Africa depends on biomass, and it must be encouraged. Consumption of modern energy in Sub-Saharan Africa is still very, very low. More striking is the electricity consumption. Even in very rich sub-Saharan states, they still depend heavily on biomass energy to meet their household requirements. In Nigeria, 97% of the household energy needs are made by biomass. And this leads me to African energy transition. Africa today is 16% of global population and consumes only 3% of global energy. That's a terrible scenario. The African energy regime is dynamic though, and has the most dependable natural resources, renewable energy. And this is why the transition is moving towards bioenergy. The current prediction is renewable energy will become the major electricity component in energy revolution in Africa. Africa will largely depend on energy integration in future to guarantee robust energy mix. In terms of African energy revolution, this is centered around the microeconomics of energy deployment. African energy revolution will depend on sustainable capital flow. Correlation between capital flow and sustainable projects strengthens the capital value and financial value creation. This is very, very important because energy, like we earlier highlighted, is the key indicator for economic development and improved livelihood of the people. If SDG agenda 1, 3, 6, 7, 13, and 19 will be met, then there must be an African energy revolution to ensure that we depart from poverty and eradicate it. We must ensure that we have good health through bioenergy activities. We should ensure that we have clean water sanitation, agenda 6. We should also ensure that we have clean energy, agenda 7. We should also join the fight against Climate Change, Agenda 13, and Partnership, Collaboration and Research, Agenda 17. Africa will experience increased business transaction to a more sustainable fashion. This is the expectation. Private sector-driven energy transition is what is expected in Africa, where market dynamics will move fossil export business to renewable. I need to say at this point that there is also a transition following the African new trade through trade mechanism, free trade mechanism, that rather than export, all exports of energy activities will be in Africa, and that will increase the African energy market, African energy domain, and African energy regime. With this in mind, with this revolution in mind and the current transition, the past is about to disappear, the emergence of African energy revolution. I will not conclude this presentation without delving into energy trilemma and African scenario. Incidentally, I was one of the contributing authors of Energy Trilemma in 2017 under the auspices of World Energy Council, as I currently represent Nigeria in the World Energy Council in the Energy Trilemma and Energy Resource Scenario Committees. So at that, the presentation and the submission of Energy Trilemma is very, very germane in the current African energy transition. That is the issue of affordability, accessibility. When you talk about accessibility, the first thing that comes to my mind anytime is recirculate and actuate, capacity building and presentation of such programs both to the academia, industry, government. Energy security is also a matter, it's also a prominent issue in energy trilemma and environmental sustainability. How does it affect African scenario? I've highlighted earlier that the affordability is not there because of the high tariffs. Accessibility has also made affordability very difficult. Availability is also an impending structure because even when it is generated, transmission and distribution is a problem. Energy security is a function of infrastructure, which I just mentioned. Generation is low on its own. Transmission is poor, and distribution is at the lowest end. So this has affected energy security, affordability, and accessibility in the African scenario, and more at the local and rural environment. Environmental sustainability has become a very, very important factor because it is now even one of the globally accepted conditions for funding. Projects that are not green will not in any way be supported. This gives a very, very good positioning for biomass, which is not only environmentally friendly, it also provides jobs. It's also very affordable and accessible off-grid approach at the rural areas. So with this, energy security will not only guarantee infrastructural displays, it will provide energy equality with accessibility and affordability of that's exactly what we're looking for. And environmental sustainability, which is deployment of low carbon and renewables. At the end of the day, what Trilemma holds for Africa is a perfect energy transition, a perfect energy mix, and a perfect energy democracy. I've already highlighted some of the challenges and prospects. The prospects are high because if you consider the new transition, the new thoughts of African leaders, and the revolution that is already going on in the bioenergy and renewables platform, I believe that the scenario is good for the African continent, and we need to build on that. Bioenergy services must be encouraged. The solid biomass, biofuels, and the biogas. If I must conclude, I would like to remind us that Africa has a young, dynamic, fast-growing, and increasing urban population, which intends to drive the global energy trend. Still the most populous continent. It's going to be the most populous continent in 2023. More than 500 million added in 2040. The market will be there, the drive will be there, become the epicenter of energy revolution global. Full energy access remains elusive though, But current and planned development policy, macroeconomic development, will help solve this problem. I agree that over 600 million Africans have no access to electricity. But with the advent of our revolution, African revolution, we'll be able to contain this. Also note that the challenges which must be tackled are the 900 million people that lack access to clean cooking mechanisms. In 2040, it is expected that 90% will be without access to electricity if nothing is done. And 50% alone will be without access to clean cooking gas. We need to work on this. These are not very good scenarios. We need to look at them. By the time we understand these challenges, we should be able to work on them and anticipate the bright future, which is tied around energy transition for the African Agenda 2063, which is to accelerate economic and industrial development. The grid extension and this densification is expected to help us move the transition forward. Expansions of mini grids are what we're looking at African scenario, and they're already on. The renewable keys to bright Africa future will be the leading role of renewables.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before I conclude, I would like to say that in the Nigerian scenario, I would like Dr. Nina to present the deployment, which I have not done because I've centered on policy anticipations, and the policy development. But let me mention in passing, and in the concluding as a passing stop, that we recirculate and actuate the transformational impact in the African scenario and the Nigerian domain is really going to be a legacy impact because it involves community participation, which is what we have now, and community ownership in the deployment. We have been able to extend international collaboration. And I want to believe that at the end of this project, to answer Professor Keck's question, what happens after the project? I want to let you know, in the next 3 months, the Nigerian mid-term development plans will have capacity building for renewables at the government, industry, and the academic level embedded into our national development plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. That's very comprehensive, really comprehensive. We are really pressed for time now, So we're going to I want to invite a young lady. So basically you hear of bioenergy, it almost feels like a concept, like some ideology or some theoretical framework in space far from you. But the point is actually there's actually opportunities in this space, absolute opportunities. And so there's actually a young lady who lives this. She runs a company, a bioenergy company. She got a master's degree in chemical engineering with a specialization in environmental engineering. She's a CEO of Avenam International, based in Nigeria, and she's constructed successfully over 15 functional biogas plants that generates electricity and cooking gas, with several ongoing projects as we speak. So just to give us a sense of a very recent project, I want to invite Mrs. Nina Ani, just for 5 minutes, to give us a specific case study to show that actually bioenergy works and is a huge potential in Africa. Over to you, Nina. Thank you very much. Hello, Nina. Nina is on the call. Nina, can you hear me, please? Can you proceed with your presentation?
Limited.
Yes, go on, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, I'm a chemical engineer with a major in environmental engineering from Budapest University of Technology and Economics. I've been here in Nigeria for the past 12 years trying to promote biogas, to be specific, to create more awareness, build more plants, to show people that this technology that works out there, can also work here in Nigeria. So what we've been doing is to build plants, in different parts of Nigeria, in different industries as well, to showcase various ways that can be used, for renewable biogas production. So we have also tried to showcase. We've also tried to showcase, technology using various ways in various different organizations in different sectors. So I would like to share with us a few projects that we've done, using the pig waste from a pig farm for electricity generation. Actually, sorry, I'm having challenge changing the slide. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a bit of challenge changing the slide.
If it's better, Nina, we can change at this end. If you just want to tell us when to do it, I can change it as well.
All right, thank you so much. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. So I just want to the next slide, please. Okay, the next one again.
Next one.
Thank you. Okay, as you can see, we won several. We also won the Energy Globe Award, for Nigeria in 2017. One of the projects we did for a poultry farm here in Nigeria. The poultry farm had farm from the poultry litter, but what we did was to convert the waste into generate biogas from the waste and organic fertilizer for their crop farm. And they use the biogas generated to reduce their operational expenses on diesel for running the farm.
Hello, Nina. You seem to be having a problem with your connection.
So I would like to share a project we did, which was for me, as the waste management. As you can see, a very poor sanitation. The big challenge of human waste management, very focused. We put a biogas plant, generates clean cooking energy for the inmates. Wide gradients for the inmates. Within the prison. So there is a link here. The project was commissioned about 2 weeks ago. Some of our national television were there, and there is a link for you to see, to view the project commissioning. I don't know if you can play that, just a 1 minute video. That's the link. If you can just share it here.
Nina, don't worry, you can continue. We would make the video available to everybody. Okay, it's here. There you go.
The possibility of cleaner air and environment at the center in Lagos. The digester is strategically located.
All right, okay, fine. Okay, so next.
Convenience, which management says has before now posed a challenge. It is now a precious raw material because of the biogas structure.
It's a system that eradicates odor from waste, and we produce gas as a result of this waste. That gas is cooking to our inmates, and not only cooking, it generates power to power our generators to do some other jobs here in the facility.
From an outdoor cooking with firewood to this. The difference in the kitchen is unmissable. Cooking made easy, clean air and clean food.
Plant is designed, to treat the waste for a specific period of time. That period of time takes out all the harmful pathogens that are supposed to be in that waste. Then while it's doing that process, the microorganisms we're collecting the gas. We are also collecting the treated water that is free of harmful pathogen that is coming out. So, but what we have also done, the water, which is the liquid organic fertilizer, used for agricultural purpose, as you can see a lot of farm activity going on, why the gas is used in the kitchen here as renewable cooking fuel for them to complement the LPG gas that the federal government and, headquarters has provided for them as well.
With this single project, methane that would have gone into the air to cause harm has been reduced. Deforestation that's caused by the firewood which used to be used here has also been reduced, and then the waste that would have been dumped into our environment has reduced, and it sounds like a win-win situation for everyone. Well, this project seems it's something that should be duplicated in not just the correctional service, but other sectors. In John Mekwa, Channel Television News.
All right, thank you for viewing. Okay, so that's the project at the prison. So as a result of this project, the federal government has also commissioned 3 other projects, in Gombe, in the northeast, and also somewhere in the eastern part, for these projects to be replicated. You will see pictures of ongoing project much later. So this is another project we did. Is a pig farm, where they had challenge in managing the pig waste, and they also had a challenge of operational expenses, on diesel. So we built the bag type, the plug flow kind of digester. As you can see, there is a digester and also the storage bag there, for managing the pig waste and also generating electricity for the farm. The client, of course, is very happy because the farm now is free of odor, and also he doesn't have to, she doesn't have to keep spending, on petrol for daily operational, for operating the farm daily. Next slide, please. And so we also have another project for a Gari factory, which is the next slide. You'll see the Gari factory where we use the cassava peel and also pig waste, to generate biogas for this cassava factory where they produce Gari. And the Gari is, usually fried using the biogas, while part of the biogas generated, as you can see from the storage bag there, it's also used to run the generator, which generates electricity for the Gari factory to peel the cassava. The generator powers the cassava peeling machine, the grinder, and also the Gari frying, equipment. So you can see the biodigesters, just at the far end, 4 of them painted brown. Then we also have a small kitchen, we're looking at the possibility of eradicating the use of firewood, for domestic cooking, mostly in the rural area. So we have the surface digester, which is a household kitchen waste to cooking gas system. It's simple, it's low cost, and very easy maintenance. So we have it installed in some areas within Nigeria, and it comes as a complete package, for each client, and cost is really very effective. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see ongoing projects. These are also other prisons, the prison in the Gombe in the northeast, and we have the other prison in Lafia, where this biogas project is ongoing at the moment, and we are also seeing that they have proper sanitation, facility within there. If you, at present, what they have is open septic tank. The waste is pouring into the, open drain into the public drain without any form of treatment. The whole place is messy. It's really messy. So we're trying to, do all that and channel all the waste into the digester, get it digested, and we also, the slurry that comes out, we give it further treatment, infiltration. It passes through infiltration before, it's let out into open drainage. Next slide, please. So, I think these are just a few because of time. We have several other projects across Nigeria, in Calabar, in Abuja, in several other places, in Enugu, in Nigeria, several other places. So thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. That's absolutely fantastic. Just as I was going through your slides, I was just thinking, this is an absolute evidence of the power of innovation. But not only that, but also the power of just taking the bulls by the horn. I'm just kind of getting stuck in a project of this nature that actually makes sense. And you can see that your company is growing. You are actually a very good example of if young Africans, the researchers, kind of get the nitty-gritty of just moving research from a theoretical point of view to actual practical solutions, providing research, then we're in business. Getting questions from you. So I think what we want to do now is just do a quick, very short question and answer. So I know on the end we have a few questions. So first for Lawrence, Professor Lawrence, yeah, we've got a question for you. And the question is, are you there, sir? Lawrence, no, Nicole. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, very good. So there's actually a question here for you. The question is, why is energy transition towards electricity?
Pardon?
So the question is, why is energy transition in Africa tilting towards electricity-based outcomes and not solar-based, considering the huge potential for insulation on the continent? You can respond, sir.
Yes, I want to say that electricity is one of the basic needs. And as I speak today, fossil sources, or clean fossil sources through gas will also be the major source of energy, particularly electricity. But it will be complemented, like I said, complemented by renewables such as solar. In Africa's scenario, just know that the complementarity is a regional thing. Some regions will be blessed with solar, some regions will be blessed with the bio resources. So it is a complementary approach, but with electricity through fossil clean fuel driving the pack.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. So please, everyone listening to me, if you've got any questions for Prof or for Nina, just post it on the chat section and we'll pick it up as we progress. Now, because we're kind of pressed for time, so Kyari, have you got a question, please?
Yes.
Go on, please.
Is it for any of the presenters should go?
Yes, please. Any of the presenters.
Yeah. Actually, my question goes to Professor Keck Sample.
Okay, go on.
Particularly with the issue of this, the triple helix, the water for sanitation, water for irrigation, and the water for energy.
Okay.
With this issue of COVID-19, the water has become a commodity whereby people don't have access to the water. And even if they have the access, there is a challenge of having a clean water. And what are the possibilities of having local materials for like the filtration materials, local ones, and having even the local material to clean, use it to filter the water and also use it to clean the hand. And these are challenges that we are looking at in the era of this COVID-19. And also the sustainability issues of the RECIRCULATE projects that he mentioned. One of the most critical components is the entrepreneurship, the R&D coming out of the RECIRCULATE projects. The entrepreneurship in that regard is a key issue. And apart from the knowledge coming out of the entrepreneurship, the innovation hubs, how can that research be taken from the bench to the market is a very key issue. If we don't have investors to come and invest in such projects, it will not be lifted up from stage 1 to the end. And that is a key challenge. Thank you.
So Gary, Keck just stepped off briefly on the call, but we also have on the call Professor Alastair Martin, who will respond to your question. Alastair, over to you, please.
Hi. First of all, I'm a chemical engineer by background, so my response is going to be of that type. With the RECIRCULATE project, we have basically, partly because of the people who are present today, we have focused to some extent on what you might call the dirty water side. So taking wastewater and waste, processing it to produce water fit for irrigation, not necessarily fit for human consumption or indeed hand washing. Having said that, by creating the circular economy in water that's currently good quality water that's currently used for irrigation, it can be made available for human consumption, so increasing basically the availability of water. Personally, I have been involved in a number of projects outside RECIRCULATE with a number of students of mine in the past from sub-Saharan Africa, all of whom have been interested in looking at using local materials to actually purify water, particularly with the objective of improving them to drinking water quality. We are to a lesser extent looking at that kind of thing in other parts of the RECIRCULATE project, particularly looking at what we call the last 100 meters. And this is for communities where potable water is supplied to a standpipe and it's then carried home. And how that water is carried home and stored is actually very, very important, and quite often it leaves the tap at the standpipe being certainly potable, of very good quality, but by the time it has been carried home and stored, it is no longer as good. So we're looking at it in that regard. I have looked at improving the quality of water using local materials as filter sinks in the past. I'm happy to have a further discussion outside this meeting, of course. I hope that helps.
So thanks, Alastair. That's fantastic. Really, really appreciate that. Because we have to move along very quickly. I'd like us to have an actual group activity, but I think before we do that, we have two short talks. One from an amazing gentleman, Dr. Richard Baitse from Ghana. He's a senior scientist at and head of Sanitation and Environmental Management Division at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Institute of Industrial Research in Ghana. He's got a specialism in enzymatic hydrolysis and fermentation for ethanol and amino acids. He's a technical expert for Environmental Protection Agency in Ghana and also for the Ghana Standard Authority, GSA. He's won several international funding projects and currently working on the RECIRCULATE and ACTUATE project. So Richard wants to give, in the next 10 minutes, a sense of a Ghana scenario. So you can actually appreciate the fact that those scenarios are the same across African countries. And if something works in one country, the potential to work in other countries is very, very high, even though there's maybe some leverages around like peculiarities and specifics. So can I please welcome Richard to give his talk then, please?
Yeah, thank you, Akan. Can I share my screen from here, if you can allow me to
Oh, yes, please.
Share my screen and then control it from here.
That's fine, that's fine. So we'll give you the right to share now. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Akan, very much. As Akan said, my name is Dr. Ezemonye. I work at CSR Institute of Industrial Research. As the previous presenters have done, I'll skew my presentation to biogas because the ACTUATE project, the theme of the ACTUATE is to demonstrate the use of organic material to generate gas for demonstration in schools. So I'm going to actually talk about biogas generation in perspective of what happens in Ghana.
Fantastic.
So my presentation, I'll give you a brief background, then I'll tell you the trend of biogas development in Ghana, the challenges that we face and the opportunities that we can also take advantage of. As you know, bioenergy is basically the energy that is generated from biomass. And this can be in a form of biofuels, liquids, and then hello?
Please continue, Richard. Can we all mute our microphones, please? Thank you very much. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, so the bioenergy can be used to produce electricity, and this can be used for heating and then in transportation. Because Ghana has attached very great importance to energy, renewable energy. In 2011, there was an act in Parliament that looked at the feed-in tariff, because when we talk about renewable energy, the tariff regime is very, very important. So the act addresses that. And then how you sell that energy into the national grid, who will buy that energy if you generate it, is very key. So the act has addressed that. Then the licensing regime, if the licensing regime is too rigorous and robust, people will not go into the use of renewable energy to supplement our energy sources in the country. So the act has actually dealt with that. And you cannot have the act without looking at what? The policy of the energy within the country. So in 2010, the country has actually looked at the energy policy. In that policy, they talk about the biomass, how we can use biomass to generate energy. But looking at that biomass, they also look at how we can shift to other sources of renewable energy, not only using biomass, because it's also critical. If you want to use only biomass in our electricity generation, we might face problems in the future. So they talk about other sources. Then the policy also deals with pricing of energy sources, because when you generate the energy, you have to sell it. So the pricing is very important. So in 2019, Ghana actually looked at a roadmap. They call it Renewable Energy Management Plan of Ghana. And in that plan, they have a specific agenda for biogas in Ghana. And they put the baseline on 2015, where they wanted to move the generation from 0.1 megawatt to 50 megawatt in 2030. And before they can achieve that, then they need to constantly increase the number of biogas plants that we have to build within the country. So if you look at this table, we want to move the building of the biogas units within the industrial sector from 10 to 200 within the 15 years interval. And for the domestic, less than 100, we want to move it to 500. And for the institutional, for domestic, we want to move it from less than 50 to 200, but for the institutional, from less than 100 to 500. And before we can do that, what are we supposed to do? If you look at the trend of biogas development in Ghana, it started
in the late 1960s when Ghana becomes a republic. The idea of biogas technology has infiltrated into the country, and the government has bought it, that it is a good thing to do in the country. But nothing was done until 1980s, when the communities begin to feel that there is something called biogas and the technology begins to penetrate. What is the objective of that? We want to move away from using the wood fuels so that we can generate energy from biogas. But since 1960, the first biogas plant was produced and commissioned in 1992. This biogas plant used cow dung and human excreta to generate electricity. I can remember vividly this plant, the building of this plant was done in collaboration with CSR. CSR was deeply involved in building this first plant in Ghana. And if you look at our biogas situation in Ghana, most of the small unit biogas that we have in Ghana, basically they are used for sanitation purposes. In people's homes, they use it to treat their effluents, and people don't normally use the gas for anything. That is not very good. And when you look at the energy mix in Ghana, in 2016, Ahiataku and Togobo reported that, in fact, biogas contributed only 0.1% to the energy mix in Ghana. This is very, very, very low. And we need to do something to move this away from 0.1%. And it is very important for us to even look at some of the institutions that get themselves involved in biogas development in Ghana. These are the institutions, and CSR featured vividly in the development of biogas in Ghana. KNUST also is part of that, Vita Construction, and a host of others. They've contributed towards the development of biogas in Ghana. How do we disseminate biogas technology in Ghana since 1960? As I said, during 1960, the idea was bought by the government, and nothing was done until 1986, when the first Chinese fish dome biodigester was. In 1987, another biogas digester was built in the Upper West region, which was funded by UNICEF. In 1995, a Catholic hospital in Volta region also built a biodigester. This very biodigester was built by Institute of Industrial Research, CSR. And the gas from the biodigester was used to cook and then do heating in the hospital. At the same year, 1995, there was another biodigester built in Ashanti region to convert slaughterhouse waste into biogas. This biogas was built by KNUST and GTZ. The gas was used for heating and cooking within the facility. And since 1995, it has taken some time before these biodigesters were built again. And in 2011, a private company called Fresh and Dry Limited in Eastern region also built their biodigester to treat the waste that they generate from the factory and then use the gas to generate electricity and use it to do their operation in their facility. In the same 2011, Institute of Industrial Research built a biodigester, 200-meter cubed biodigester for Ankafu Maximum Security Prison in the central region. The digester uses excreta generated from the prison to generate gas, and the gas generated is channeled into the kitchen where they use it to cook for the prison inmates. In 2011, the first commercial biogas plant was built by Safisana in Greater Accra, in Ashama in Greater Accra. This very plant was sponsored by Netherlands government, and it's a private-owned biodigester plant. They utilize about 9 to 25 metric tons of waste per day, which they collect from abattoir, they get them from human excreta, and then food waste from the market. They combine all this to generate about 2,200 kilowatt hour of electricity per day, which is fed into the national grid. So Safisana is the first commercial biogas plant that was built in Ghana in 2011. Guinness Ghana Limited at the same year, 2011, also built a biogas digester. But unfortunately, they only use the digester for treatment purposes. They have never used the gas for anything. They always flare the gas, which is not good for the environment. At the same year, Ghana Oil Palm Development Authority also built their biodigester. This very biodigester was built for them by Institute of Industrial Research. And they have actually utilized the gas that is generated to heat water to generate steam so that it can help them in their operations. So what is the contribution of CSR towards biogas development in Ghana? Between 1987 to 2012, Institute of Industrial Research has built over 54 fixed dome, which can be found in institutions, private homes, and like. Because the fixed dome biodigesters have challenges in terms of technicalities and cost. Institute of Industrial Research has researched into a different type of biodigester, which is very, very efficient and cost-effective, which we call anaerobic bioreactor. And between 2014 to 2017, we have built over 16 of these facilities in schools and in private homes. As part of the ACTUATE project, CSR Institute of Industrial Research is part of ACTUATE project. And as part of our contribution, we have developed new biodigester system in collaboration with Lancaster University, which we term integrated biodigester, because we use solar energy to drive all the pumps that we are going to use to operate this biodigester. This is a unique surface digester. It's so compact and the space that is covered is very limited. If you can attest to the fact, if you look at the way we plan our cities nowadays, we don't have space and we use the septic system. So people find it difficult to incorporate biogas into their system at home because they don't have space. But this new design has come handy to solve that problem, because you can actually mount this design on your existing septic tank and convert all the fecal material within the septic tank into biogas and then treat the effluent efficiently for discharge into the environment. CSR Institute of Industrial Research is also involved in building a hybrid waste to energy plant. This is a new project which between Ghana government and German government is over €5 million project. There are other partners involved. And the purpose of that project is to convert waste to energy through a hybrid thermal, biological, and anaerobic digestion system. This one has both the solar PV and then the anaerobic digestion system. And the purpose of this project is to generate 400 kilowatts of electricity. And this project starts from 2020 and to end in 2023. And this plant is going to be built in Ashanti region, specifically at Jankuba.
Richard,
interventions and
Richard, sorry, could you do you mind, please? I want to do something. I know you're about to talk about challenges. Because of time, I think it's probably a good idea for us. Let's throw the challenges to the audience. I know you're going to talk about this. And the reason is because let's get a sense as to what the audience thinks. Paul, could you remove the slide, please? So let's get a sense as to what the audience think about what they, in some sense, what the key challenges, if you like, for bioenergy for Africa actually is. And so it's going to be a group activity. And Richard, and don't worry, I'll come back to you briefly, but I think, so let us focus on the audience for some kind of participation. So now, if you look at the chat section, we're going to put in a link, okay, where you only have to click the link. It will take you to a website, okay? And on the website, all you need to do is just in one word, list 1, 2, or 3 challenges that you think bioenergy faces in Africa and submit. Let's produce some kind of a map. Because I know Richard was going to talk about challenges, but I think it's probably maybe a good idea to throw it to the audience for some kind of an engagement. Okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Akan.
Thanks so much, Richard. I do appreciate that. That was an absolutely fantastic presentation. So just give us a second. You should have a link posted on the chat section, which everybody should just click. It will take you to our website, and there will be a request there for you to just list in your view, in one word, 1, 2, or 3 challenges that you think bioenergy fundamentally faces in Africa. Now, the link is on the chat section. Please proceed. Let's do this in just 3 to 4, 5 minutes. So as you put in those wordings of challenges, it would show on the webinar screen. Let's get some people engaged in thinking about what the key challenges actually are. Technology, fantastic. So people are doing that now. So everybody contribute, please, in one word. And I mean, it can be a word, it can be 2 words, it can be a phrase. Just click on the link, and in your mind, let us know what you think are the issues. Beautiful. So it's availability of feedstock, infrastructure, corruption, cost, pricing, power, attitude. That's a very interesting one. I will come back to attitude shortly. Economics, the pricing, fantastic. Acceptability. If Ubekwe, please could you put it on the website so we can capture it in the mapping. So we got policy issues, most of which Professor Lawrence addressed earlier. Technology, which Nina spoke about. Investment capital, how do you get funding to grow bioenergy in Africa? Awareness creation, people know about it, but the point is, in some sense, I mean, how real is it? Is it just a theoretical concept? Very, very vital. Fantastic. Okay, economics is a grid system. So we just got just 1 minute and we can wrap it up. There's poverty. I'm just reading through the comments. There's limited technology attitudes. There's promotion capacity, the benefits and awareness. What are the benefits to bioenergy? Thanks, political will. That's fantastic. Thanks, guys. I can see this most of contribution from the room. That's beautiful. Reliability, how reliable it is. And I'm really glad that even as we were having presentations, people were already engaging with individuals on the chat section. So I saw Nina had several questions. People wanted to find out, Nina, what materials are they made from? I mean, your gas bags, and also how are you able to get rid of the foul smell? So if you look at the chat section, Nina, you can respond to individuals in chat section as we progress. There's cost issues, infrastructure, lack of knowledge, limited knowledge. Okay, I think we can wrap it up there. That's fantastic. Now, for the thank you so much, Richard, again. So if you have any questions for Richard, he's printed a great picture, an overview of the Ghana case study around bioenergy. And you can see very clearly that lots of things are happening in Ghana, as it is the case in different African countries. Most of these projects are maybe small scale, but I think the point is, as we progress, there is investment going into the bioenergy sector to actually develop the capacity to make it mainstream, and that the issue is making it mainstream for a good uptake of bioenergy. Now, Richard, a quick question for you, please. And the question is, what device did you say would be used to collect the gas and leave digest it? Richard, can you respond quickly, please, before we move to the next speaker to wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll use a gas holder. There will be a gas holder to hold the gas. Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, so the last speaker for the day is a good friend of mine, actually, a very interesting personality, and who is also an amazing recirculator, I'm talking of Dr. Mary Mwangi. She's a lecturer, staff mentor, and academic advisor at the Department of Biochemistry, Microbiology, and Biotechnology at Kenyatta University in Kenya. She holds an MSc in genetics, BA in education, botany and zoology, both at Kenyatta University. She's an executive member of the Association of African Women in Science and Engineering, AWSE, and currently she serves as executive secretary. She's recently been appointed a board member, gender equity and empowerment at Kenyatta University. And she was speaking very briefly for 10 minutes on gender considerations around bioenergy in Africa. Mary, over to you. Thank you very much. Mary, are you on the call? Just a second, everybody. Let's just share Mary's slides, and then she can progress. Okay, Mary, that's your slide. You can start now, Mary. Thank you very much. We can hear you, Mary. We can hear you. Can you increase your volume? A bit better. Can you be louder?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, that's better now. That's much better. Yes, go on.
Okay. So my talk this afternoon is bioenergy and other considerations, and I'd like to appreciate Akan for inviting me to give this presentation. I will take it from where Professor Ezemonye left when he talked about equity. And I would like to start by, oh my God, what's happening? Okay. I would like to start by saying that in Africa, women are in charge of providing bioenergy, of providing energy, most of which is biomass fuels, and which is solid biomass fuel that women have to collect from away from home, walking long distances, carrying heavy loads, and they also engage the girl child in bringing the fuel. And women are also engaged in cooking, and they take a lot of time fetching fuel as well as cooking. And they also spend a lot of time in the kitchen where they are exposed to, indoor air pollution. And the consequences of this are that there are some gender implications of energy poverty, because energy is never enough. One of the implications is that women are compared to men. The workload for women is not commensurate with the kind of nutrition that they access, because the food is first given to the husbands and the children, and then the women. Women also suffer damage to their spines and necks because of the heavy loads, and they also are prone to increased prevalence of anemia and other reproductive health problems. And in some cases, there are situations where women face vulnerability to gender-based violence and injuries during fuel gathering, because in many cases, maybe the women go to the forest to collect the firewood, and they are collecting remains from what the men have burnt charcoal, and sometimes they may ask for sexual offers in order to allow them to get the fuel. So there is vulnerability to gender-based violence. But the worst health risk factor in terms of bioenergy is indoor air pollution, which disproportionately affects women in terms of respiratory illnesses and eye irritations. And according to the WHO, the indoor air pollution is the 5th worst health risk factor in poor countries, particularly among women and children. And indeed, in 2012, about 4.3 million deaths, premature deaths, occurred from indoor air pollution. This is more than other diseases like HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. And women also face other health hazards such as asthma, burns from from open fires, cataracts, which are the leading causes of blindness. Now, the other major gender implication of energy poverty is what is commonly referred to in development publications as time poverty. The fact that women are spending on average like 40 minutes per day collecting fuel, and yet they still have to take care of other productive and reproductive roles. As I said, we are well aware in Africa that the women will mostly go with the girl child, and therefore, while the boys are in school or completing school, the girls may not participate fully in school. And due to this time poverty, women also have little time for other activities such as education, and that is why we have very high literacy levels in Africa, community participation and income activities, and leisure. All these disproportionately affecting women as opposed to men. So these are gender issues. Next, please. Well, the global community has not been silent about this. There have been some interventions towards reducing cooking time, towards increasing fuel efficiency, towards reducing emissions, and providing or creating more time for the women. And, and hopefully completion rates for boys and girls. Again, even when these interventions have been introduced, like the fireless cookers, like the clean energy cookers, there are still barriers to adoption, widespread adoption. Next, please. And one study carried out on one online gender survey carried out by the International Energy Agency showed that cultural and social norms are the overriding barrier to adoption of clean energy. But a closer look shows that when you come to, that is on average, globally, but when you come to look at the African setting, lack of skills and lack of gender-specific training stand out as the major barriers to accessing energy solutions in Africa. The other observation I make is that the SDG 5, which has to do with gender equality, is key to the achievement of other SDGs, and more so to achieving gender equality. So if you cannot, to achieving bioenergy. And to me, SDG 5 and SDG 7 are intertwined in that you need one to achieve the other. If you cannot have access to energy, then there are gender inequalities in the household and in the communities, and vice versa. So as we transit to modern bioenergy that were presented this morning very well presented by Nina and Professor Ezemonye and even Professor Kak. And as we work towards bioenergy, sustainable bioenergy for all, as presented by the UN Secretary General in 2011, my observation is that affordable clean energy is a pathway to gender equality. But this does not come automatically. There have to be some specific actions by policymakers, by researchers like ourselves, by government, to ensure equitable access to efficient, affordable, and gender-friendly interventions. Because however good the technologies may be, if they are not enabling better access for energy for women, if they are not affordable, if they are not efficient, then they will not meet purpose. It's also important that even as RECIRCULATE projects and other projects on energy are carried forward, that participation in decision making is that women participate in decision making. As traditional energy managers, they know better what works for them. They have all the knowledge, they have the skills, they have ceramic skills. And the other point is that the moment that we have cleaner energies, we are talking about other benefits. Like when we have cleaner indoor air, when we have better nutrition, when we have food safety due to, like women can use refrigeration, when women have health knowledge, then there's improved health in the household. I just talked about gender-based violence and the access to better lighting will mitigate against gender-based violence because women have greater mobility to engage in productive activities under safe conditions. And of course, reduced time burdens translating to higher earning jobs. Women are able to go to school and also engage in entrepreneurial activities. Unfortunately, there is a bit of confusion with this, but anyway, there are some strategies for economic empowerment for women beyond the household. That if we have equitable access to energy through gender mainstreaming, and if we can leverage on women's indigenous knowledge, and if we can ensure that there's equitable access, then we are going to see better participation of women in the energy sector. And in conclusion, I would like to say that for me, having looked at the relationship between energy and gender, I see bioenergy, which is the focus of RECIRCULATE, as a key pathway to achieving gender equality. And therefore, my challenge is this to all of us, that let us put gender into consideration in the design of the projects, in all the innovations towards cleaner energy, the improved stoves, and all other aspects that we should deliberately put gender into consideration. And I guess that's the end of my few remarks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mary. That's really, really good. And to be honest, I think when we're putting this together, it's almost impossible to think about energy, especially bioenergy in Africa, and not consider women. Sincerely, they're the most disenfranchised, but also it's a massive opportunity for them to be the biggest agents of transformational change in this sector on the continent. So thank you so much, Mary. That's fantastic. Really good presentation. So now we're wrapping up now, and so I would imagine that I've been getting some correspondence and engagements and discussions on the chat section. But I'd like us to do a simple activity, still using that link, and I want to explain what the activity is. Now, when you consider bioenergy, especially from the point of anaerobic digestion, there are three things you should consider, three fundamental benefits from bioenergy. first and foremost, the simple process basically is converting waste, okay, to energy. Then the residue, which is digestate, can be used for agricultural amendments. So if you look at it holistically, there are three basic benefits in some sense for anaerobic digestion from a bioenergy point of view. And they are the capacity for waste management. Number two, the capacity for energy production. And number three, the capacity for agricultural amendments. Now,
number four.
No, Prof, let's focus. I want to make a point just for purpose of an engagement. So now, if we consider those three just for the purpose of an engagement for now, okay? So if you look at the chat section, there is the same link you had before. So what I want to do is rank these three benefits. So click on the link and rank these three benefits as you see that is the best for Africa. So if you want to go and invest in bioenergy, especially anaerobic digestion, and you were to rank the benefit driving this potential, how would you rank it? With one being the most important, and then three being the least important as a benefit. Click on the link, everybody, and rank. Let's see what you come up with. Don't worry, it will keep changing as people rank it. There are basically three potential benefits of anaerobic digestion: waste management, energy production, and agricultural amendment. If you were to rank this based on your preference, with respect to Africa's benefit, how would you rank it? Click on the link on the chat and let's rank, please. Thank you very much. Prof, I'm coming to you in a minute, and I know that there are many benefits. I can see chats are moving. Now waste management has taken preeminence. That's interesting to see. Okay, yes, thanks, Titi. You've done your ranking. Please, let everybody engage. Let's try and do the ranking, which you see takes preeminence as far as you're concerned. Okay. We have another, say, 2 minutes, just 2 more minutes for ranking, then we can close it up because we have to wrap up. And I'll be calling on Alastair to do a final close-up of the webinar. So you've got 2 more minutes to do some more ranking. So, okay. Yes, Alastair, I'm thinking the same thing. It's quite close, isn't it? Energy and waste is kind of tied together. That's very interesting to see. It seems like agricultural amendment is the least consideration, which is also interesting. Now energy has overtaken waste, and waste has overtaken energy again. I like this. Fantastic. You can only rank one. So in the chat, we have about 107 participants. So this is based on a simple case scenario. That's very interesting to see. So the focus is on energy. So we've got just 1 more minute, and we'll close up the ranking. Just 1 minute to try and go online right now if you haven't done so, and rank, please, as you see, as the most important agenda you think that anaerobic digestion can address in Africa.
The suspense is killing me.
It's killing me too. I want to see who wins. Which of the benefits will win? That's interesting. So energy is currently winning and it seems stable. So I'm going to do a countdown from 10, if I may, to put some kind of some pressure. So 10, 9. Oh, West is taking over. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Can we close up the ranking, please? Ranking completed. Thank you very much, Paul. It's fantastic. So based on the ranking, I think most people in the room believe that the biggest issue to address is actually energy as an issue, energy. And ultimately, the second in the list is actually waste management. And it almost feels like agricultural amendments as the residue of the process, it ranks third. Now, it means therefore that there is obviously an overriding case, if you like, respect to the energy crisis in Africa. And obviously, Professor Ezemonye spoke at the very beginning, and we cannot do anything without energy. It's one of the biggest issues that actually kind of stalls development across different sectors on the continent. And until we address that, we will not progress. And I think it's interesting to say that bioenergy provides a basis based on the webinar today of us beginning to address that. We've also seen a good case of actual on-the-ground cases and projects that actually this can work. On that note, I want to hand over to Alastair for a wrap-up, and I'll come back and give some final news and information for the next webinar. Alastair, over to you, please.
Okay, if I turn my camera on, then people can actually see me.
Yes, please. There you are.
There I am. Okay, I haven't got any slides, so that makes things nice and easy. Well, all I can say really from this morning, and I keep looking down here at my scribbled notes which surround me, is wow. A collection of very, very interesting presentations. I haven't been obliged to make notes quite so fast since I was an undergraduate, and as you can tell, that was a long time ago.
Interesting. Say your notes, please.
So, some very interesting sort of facts coming out of these presentations. It was interesting to note, although the collective economies across Africa are not as large as we hope they will become, the production of 60 million tons of waste across the continent, and about 50% of that being organic. I think Akan, this was something that Akan brought forward. I just did a quick, very, very quick, rough and ready calculation. 60 million tons of waste, that's equivalent to something like 10 million tons of crude.
Wow.
That we could keep in the ground and not spill all over places like Delta State in Nigeria, which has had a terrible experience with the oil industry. So these are huge amounts of resources that we can access. And of course, the poverty and the rapid growth represent some other big challenges. And picking up on that point that Akan made, I think it was Richard's point, that less than 50% of the population, sorry, it was Lawrence's point, less than 50% of the population of Africa have regular access to electricity. And then with that population growth and bringing in a point from Richard's presentation, which I found quite striking. It might be 50% now, but it's 50% and declining. It's true. Going the wrong way.
That's true.
And that represents an enormous challenge. Myself, I do believe renewables and particularly bioenergy is one of the solutions here. But that was a really striking point and sets out the challenge for us. Lawrence brought to us the idea of the energy trilemma. It was interesting. Yes, I agree with his definition. So equity, sustainability, environmental sustainability, and unfortunately I can't remember, my memory is failing me. But actually, each time we look at this, and this is probably why my memory is not clear, we talk about trilemmas, and even the UN example wasn't a trilemma, it was a quadrilemma. there were 4 points. Ultimately, energy is what we call a knotty problem. It's a multi-lemma. There are so many conflicting challenges.
I like that.
I'm going to copyright that phrase. You heard it here first.
The multi-lemma, indeed.
A multi-lemma. So, hearing how working on sustainable, renewable energy can help address the issues as diverse as education, equality, gender equality, and fundamentally lifting people out of poverty, I think is very, very exciting. The successes of Avenam that Nina told us about, and indeed Richard, the complementary set of cases in Ghana. All of these are very interesting, but I did notice something that came up on the questions. It just flashed by in a brief moment. Somebody asked the question, what can we do about the foul smell of digestion? Well, I've worked in anaerobic digestion for more years than I care to mention. And one thing I have learned over that time, anaerobic digestion should not smell foul. If it does, you're not doing it right. So perhaps the question is, how do we learn how to do digestion right so that it doesn't smell foul? Because my experience is, done right, it does not. And believe me, I've had experiences at both ends of the spectrum where we have got it wrong and where we have got it right, and at a big scale. It's interesting to pick up the rate of uptake, which I hope now is accelerating. In the United Kingdom, just as a complementary example, anaerobic digestion was taken up as a means of treating the solids arising from wastewater treatment on a municipal scale. So everything was done really big. And actually that started over 50 years ago. And actually, the primary objective of anaerobic digestion then was to make sewage sludge safe as an agricultural fertilizer. And that was the first piece of regulation. It was actually to deal with parasite eggs, tapeworms. We've come a long way since then, and I think we've got still some big challenges to overcome. Richard mentioned the challenge of the economics, and so did indeed Lawrence. Yes, these are challenges we must work on, and I think the research community are really need to be focused on overcoming these and making this technology work for the ordinary person, not the big so-called wealthy municipality. And I think the technology, almost the bag-in-box technology, it's a bit like the box of wine technology almost, that Avenam are promoting and developing. I think it's very, very interesting. It seems to me that getting digesters out of the ground is actually a good. So I know we're very calm, but all I really want to now do is actually thank our speakers very much indeed for a selection of very, very interesting presentations. And I look forward to our next webinar on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you, fantastic, Alastair. I know everybody, can you unmute your mic? Let's give a clap for everybody, please. Unmute your mic. I want to let you clap.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.